Welcome to another episode of Pistons of Fury. In this episode, we are doing some patch panel work on my 1966 Dodge Coronet station wagon. Okay, so this week we are continuing my Coronet wagon rear quarter project here. So probably what's gonna comprise the majority of this episode is me working on this gas tank filler. So what I have to do is pull this off. I've got to disconnect the filler tube that goes down, I think like that, kind of that way, into the gas tank, which is under the rear trunk area. So I've got to disconnect this. Like I said in the last episode, I've got enough gas in the car that I can keep it running and moving, so I don't need to necessarily reconnect all that just yet. But I do need to remove that. I need to make sure that it's safe to use the grinder around so I don't spontaneously combust into flames. So that's of utmost importance in this episode, to make sure I don't catch on fire or anything else on fire. Yeah, so anyway, I've just got to dig in here. I think there's some screws behind this gas cap, so I've got to pull that off, disconnect under there. Oh, and also I figured out why this quarter panel rusted out, and I will show you guys that, but I've got to pull the wheel off to do that. So anyway, I'm going to get started doing that and get set up, and I'll be back with you shortly. All right, so awesome camera angle because it gets my face and it gets the thing that I'm talking about. Okay, so at some point in this car's life, some dumbass decided to cut out the interior, a big chunk of the interior of this inner wheelhouse. And what that basically did was it exposed this big gap here. So whenever you drive through rain or whatever, salt, not this car ever really saw salt, but you drive through rain, comes up here, gets between your inner and outer wheelhouse skins, and basically just chucks all the moisture this way, where it then sat between these two panels sandwiched, doing its thing, rusting for God knows how many years. So that's the issue. Because of this, I'm gonna have to check up front here now too. I need to make sure that there's nothing in there, although it looks like this is a little bit better, but I don't even know how I'm gonna get in there. I don't have any kind of like endoscope system or anything, but this area out here is definitely suspect for rust, and you can kind of see it bubbling here, so I'm gonna have to take the paint down on here and make sure that this is gonna be solid. Who knows, maybe I will take like a propane torch and heat it up once I have it down to bare metal, just to burn off any moisture. And then the next patch I have to do, I need to come back in here and create a new patch for this, which is pretty awesome. But anyway, I wanted to show you guys that. And then as far as the gas tank goes, let me turn you around here. We're gonna need some light. There we go, kind of. Yeah, so that's the filler right there. So yeah, I just need to come down and basically pop off the end of that elbow so I can disconnect it from the car or from the fender, and then I guess plug that somehow just to make sure that it's away from sparks and stuff. But that should be fun. That stuff's probably never been off, so I can't say I'm super looking forward to that, but we'll see how it goes. Okay, so here's the gas filler neck. Actually, wasn't that bad to come out. There's actually this little access panel that you can just unscrew from the bottom and the whole assembly comes out. So in a separate video, I guess soon to be as part of the series, I will have to remake this and reroute it to the back tail light. But for today, this will serve my purposes. So basically what happens is I'm gonna plug this filler neck piece under there. I'm just gonna stuff a rag in it, probably tape over it, make sure no fumes can get out. And then, actually maybe I'll reroute the fumes somewhere else, because this thing did have kind of a vent and I don't want to, I don't want anything to swell and explode. So I'll have to do some internet Googling on that. But anyway, next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tackle this hole. So you're gonna see me cut out this gas thing, and I should actually be able to get the patch done today. So have high hopes for that, barring any unforeseen issues. Alright, so where I'm at basically is, you probably saw that, I decided I am going to weld up this, this gas cap area thing. I am not going to need it to make my pipe. I think I'll have access to that hatch on the bottom that I can access from below, and once I have the tail light off, I'll have all the room I need, so I won't need this. I am taking the opportunity though to, you probably saw that, vacuum out some of the rust on the surface, and then I have this this rust treatment stuff, this Rust-Oleum rust reformer. So we'll take a look, see what that does. The Duplicolor version of this seems to get really good reviews. I don't know if this is the same formulation or whatever, so we'll give this a shot, see what it does on the rust on the inside of the panel, and hopefully that will solve all my rust issues. But I did take the wire brush, I did get all the surface, like the loose surface rust off of there. So yeah, we'll see what happens, but it's not great to film because it's this single hole and it's happening inside the fender and there's really no other vantage point. So I will check back in with you guys and let you know how it went. Okay, so ooh, dramatic with the lighting in the dark. Anyway, that what you just saw, me me welding this patch panel on, while in video sped up probably only takes maybe a minute. In real life took me the better part of a day. And what I did basically was, here I've got my welder set up. You guys saw I had the heat lamp, which I'll explain in a second. Over there I've got my computer. So basically what I did is I just kind of worked in the garage every couple minutes. I'd come back over and weld a couple more beads on this patch panel. So here, let's take a look. So this thing is now fully sealed. I haven't done a flashlight behind it, but I'm going to grind these down and then I'll do a light check just to make sure that it is fully sealed, because it's a little tough with the MIG. This isn't a TIG setup, so you're not as precise. So what I did was I basically took my heat lamp, I heated the panel. I tried to heat this area, so that when I welded this, it wasn't such a drastic difference in temperature, because it is a little colder here today. So what I wanted to do was heat the panel so that when I welded this and this heated up, that it didn't kind of pull this in and try to shrink it or expand it, whatever, the opposite. This is a really big panel, this quarter panel. So I was super concerned about putting too much heat in one spot and warping it, because that's not something I want to deal with. I'm not the best when it comes to body work. I can weld, you know, I'm a pretty good amateur welder, but body work, I don't know. That's not super my thing. I guess I need to get better at that. But anyway, so that's what I did. Now I'm gonna go back through here and grind these down. I'm actually gonna use the cutoff wheel to do that. A big mistake that people make when they do this a lot of times is they'll take you know, electric sander or grinder or whatever and come in here and just start grinding away, and you actually create more heat that way than you do welding. So you have to be really careful when grinding down your welds on a big open panel like this. So I'm gonna use my cutoff wheel. It's just very isolated. I'm gonna kind of do the same, you know, pause, grind kind of thing, and then come back through here when all this is kind of flush. So yeah, anyway, and then at some point I need to pop my hand up there and coat the back of this with some primer. I did coat the patch panel, but I want to make sure those welds get coated with something. And let me see, I think that is it. There's a little bit of it's kind of a weird contour on this panel. I know I'm gonna have to do some body filler on here, but I think it will be good. So we are almost done with that. I'm really pleased with how that came out. So I can't wait to see it without all this stuff on here and ground down. So I'm gonna do that now. All right, here's the mostly ground down. So basically you can't, it's hard to see in the camera, but this is basically, the whole patch is kind of just a big low spot. So I'm just gonna take some filler and give it a nice coat over that. It shouldn't be, you know, I should stick to the rule. It's not gonna be any thicker than like a 1/16 of an inch, just to bring it back up to where this panel is. But yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do. Okay, so I think that's where I'm going to leave it for the episode. The filler's got to dry. It smells bad. I don't really want to stay in here and wait for that to happen. So I'm just going to leave it like that. But after I sanded it all down, after you saw me do that, there were no light holes poking through. There were no gaps in my welding, so that's great. That's awesome. So at some point in the future, I will sand that down and get this panel contoured. I'm probably going to leave it like that for a while, just because there's no metal exposed now. So I need to hit the back with some primer, and that's that. So I hope this was helpful. This is kind of just a culmination of a whole bunch of techniques that I've learned over time. I haven't done a whole lot of this, but I've done enough to know what not to do, and sometimes that's the most important thing. So big lesson for this kind of repair, doing a patch panel on a wide open broad panel like this, is patience. You've got to take your time. That's the biggest thing. You saw me kind of go back and forth. Of course it was sped up, so the time lapse kind of is a little bit suspect, or you can read too much into that, but whatever. Anyway, you got to take your time, do a couple welds, go do something else. In my case, I just did some work in between. Go drink beer if that's your thing. Come back to it when it's cooled down. It remains to be seen if my panel technique of heating it up actually made a difference. I'll let you guys know when I kind of start to do some of the body work. But yeah, next thing up on this car is the big one. Is that guy. If I think that this thing took a while, that thing is definitely going to take a while. That's a lot of little spot welds that I'm going to have to do to make that happen. But anyway, fuel filler is gone. I will no longer have any fuel issues on my rear quarter, which I'm excited about. So yeah, that's it. Love to hear your feedback. Hope you learned something. If I did it wrong, if you think I totally screwed it up, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you guys next week.